Welcome to another episode of Adventures in Movies Looks at ... My name is Nathaniel Muir, and I'm the movie editor at AIPT. This week, I'm joined by the hosts of Adventures in Movies.
Hi.
Hello.
In the dark.
Yes. Yeah. Moody.
Very moody as we talk about a documentary. We look at a documentary called Stars-and-Strife. It is a political documentary about the state of America today. Well, you figure it's going to be pretty negative and maybe not so fun to watch, but is it just socialistic propaganda? Or is it worth your hard-earned time? Man, that was really hard to get out.
Just like this movie.
Yeah. So, what were your expectations going into this movie?
I couldn't find it because it was in my spam, so I was already not looking forward.
It's gonna be meaty because it's in the spam.
No, I didn't know what it was because I don't think I was in for that phone call, so I didn't really know what to expect at all. But yeah, it's there. I don't have anything nice or bad to say about it. It's there.
Okay. So, Blake, what expectations did you have going in?
I mean, I was dreading it, to be honest with you. I mean, any time I'm already having up to ear with all the political, stuff that's just inundated everywhere. It's like you can't escape it. And so was I excited to sit down and watch an hour and a half of more of that? No, not really. But unlike Danny, I was more intrigued by what we got.
When I saw the title, well, one, I'm not into politics all that much to begin with.
Yeah, same.
Then you think Stars and Strife. You're like, great. Kind of like you were saying, it's been not the best year, and politically especially, it's been a shitstorm. So yes, an hour and a half of how awful 2020 has been. Kind of not what I was looking forward to. So I was gonna watch it, and we were gonna watch it for the show, but I was absolutely not looking forward to watching it at all. So it starts off with a admittedly funny montage, a very powerful montage. So it lasted it seemed like it was like 5 minutes. It may have been less or more. So what did you guys think of that opening montage?
Okay, so I don't know if we talked about this, but my dad follows this thing called the Democratic whatever. And it reminded me of that.
The Democratic whatever, I like that.
Yeah.
I follow that too. It's pretty funny.
And they usually show all these liberal people being ponying other Republicans or whatever, and it reminded me a lot of it. It reminded me of what liberal fake news is. So I think with that, it started leaving a bad taste in my mouth throughout this whole thing.
Interesting. And okay. Blake, what did you think of the opening?
Well, I think I text you when I was watching it. We were watching this, and I said, "Well, I hope this doesn't just repeat itself for the next,
right.
hour,
90 minutes,
90 minutes." And it was, and Danny's right. It does kind of just it's kind of this almost. I mean, it's really almost slapstick. I mean, but yes. Unfortunately, real portrayal of politicians behaving, and honestly, it's both sides of the aisle. That's one thing that this movie really, I think, I gotta give it credit for, is it does not pick on anybody. It picks on everybody.
Right.
And yeah. And so I was so when it started, I was really concerned as to oh man, is this just gonna be a blooper reel for the next hour and a half? But
right.
It doesn't do that.
It's the first few minutes of it are funny. I think Democrats are idiots, and I think Republicans are idiots. So that opening was amazing to me because it's both sides of them acting, and not just they're being owned like you said, Danny, but it was just in the most ridiculous ways, doing the Democrat from Illinois who throws the papers up and starts punching them in the air and stuff
He misses, by the way.
And this is incredibly funny stuff. But I agree with Blake. It's a funny, 7 to 8 minute blooper reel, but 90 minutes was, and I think they only show one other montage like that. I think an extended version. There's clips throughout. So I thought they sprinkled that in very well. Thankfully, it didn't play out like that the entire time. So, Danny, you mentioned in the beginning it seemed like liberal fake news, kinda, and then Blake, you said it was even-handed. Overall, how did you feel? So, Blake, you think it was even-handed throughout the entire thing?
I mean, I think it has its own like kind of message to say, which is to say that what it does a good job. I think it does a good job. I think this movie does a good job of expressing its message. Now, that's entirely up to the viewer as to whether they accept that message or not. But I think they do a good kind of unbiased. Unbiased may be generous, but they do a good job of making you feel like they're not. And I thought I was impressed with some of the stuff they showed. I was also appalled, it was a kind of eye opening, to be honest with you. Like I said, I don't pay super a bunch of attention to politics daily. I literally avoid it. And so like some of this stuff I was seeing for the first time. I don't know about you guys.
And Danny, you mentioned the liberal owning reply, and you're right. It does seem like it's going to be like that. Initially, there's a lot of that. As it went on, did that feeling continue for you, or did it kind of wane?
No. To agree with to Blake, it does it runs its own agenda, and it's very informative as it goes through it because it does show both sides of the aisle. What I did like about it, I guess, with me being a little like, I guess I do follow more politics, and it does make me a little bit more matter like as I listen to it, because I'm not just seeing American politics. It's kind of like also the Mexican side of like politics and how that's all corrupt. But showing like the bipartisan world, it's something that we don't get a lot, at least if you're just watching one side of like the media. I like that. I did like all of that. Again, the message was there.
Yeah, it's not so much about the parties; it's about Washington itself.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
pretty cool. It's absolutely not partisan, but it definitely has an agenda.
Definitely.
So we've watched a few documentaries where we've been like, okay, what was that about? Who was that for? This one, clearly, we know what it's about. It's about making this country better. We know who it's for. It's for every American, basically. So, what did you guys think of the message? Like, for me, it was nice to see a message that wasn't partisan. That being said, James Baker worked with Reagan for, to both terms. He's a very staunch Republican. And there was people that were clearly liberal leaning. But the way that everyone kind of came together and delivered their message without backpedaling, I thought was really good. And ultimately, the message was, we need to work together. And I could appreciate that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's why I like the message is like, I guess having these conversations with my girlfriend and everything, I guess having a child kind of shapes a new form, at least a new viewpoint for me, where we're trying to like shape a better world for her. And if these politicians work together, you could create, so many things, and they show that, like, how it works. We see it a lot. We've seen of that viral video with Beto and Will Hurd traveling to, DC. It works, but I think, and it's trying to stick with just the movie. It tries to show you that, and I do. Again, that's something that the message works very well.
Do you ever think that the message maybe it was a little oversimplified at times? Because sometimes I felt like that they got it. Yeah, it came across as like, if we all just work together, everything will be a whole lot better. Now, I know they didn't mean it like that, but that's how it came across a lot, to me at least.
It's blissfully idealistic in its message. Like, it has this, like, I mean, truly, true progress and benefit is made from both stepping, across the party aisle, all that stuff. That's nothing new,
right,
exactly. And so, I mean, it's a great message, but it was almost too idealistic at times. I thought, it's like, it's way harder than that, especially now.
It's a dreamer's movie for sure.
It's a pie in the sky thing, especially at the end when they're like, will America be around another 200 years? And the guy from Home Depot was like, oh man, excuse me. He's like, oh man, I hope I'm alive because I know it's going to be even better. It's like, Well, maybe,
Ah,
but
I
Also,
with
you're
that.
90, sir.
Yeah, I kind of did the. I
You'll
rolled
be
my
lucky to live
eyes.
another 200 minutes. To be honest.
I rolled my eyes and I kind of did the jack off motion to that. I was like,
Yeah.
I mean, this country, what we have for I think this movie has a lot of cool talking points that we could just pretty much choose on, or even if you're just talking showing it to anybody, really, it has really good talking points. And that to me, that conversation, like, I don't think I think it was more like idealistic or just like it'll be nice, like it's gonna be even better. Like no,
It,
it
it
probably
was
won't
trying.
be.
It was a little bit. It was trying to sound like the smartest fucking kid in the room a little bit to me.
It
But
was.
you know,
I mean, and a part of it, like I get, because a lot of it is they're talking about America used to be this and America can be that, and America was built on idealism.
Hmm.
So I
yeah.
mean, it did seem simplified to me, but if it was a narrative, it kind of made sense to me also. So
Oh,
it
and they
bothered
kept
me.
that narrative rock solid.
They did. They absolutely did. So, did you guys think? I mean, and it's a big part of this because, and I think they kind of flubbed in a little bit in this, but do you think there was enough diversity? Because there's a lot of interviews and really good interviews. Do you think there was enough?
Diversity in this movie? No, not at all.
Well, it's funny in the beginning because one of the things that they say is Washington is very old right now, and then we get 90 minutes of old white dudes telling us how to fix things.
Yeah.
When
I
Yeah,
mean, old everybody. Yeah, there's
yeah,
lots of white guys, but there's old
yeah.
everybody.
it is older, you're right. You're right. I mean,
It,
I
you know,
should have figured.
it's funny, yeah, because like the one guy who says he's like, oh yeah, no, everyone's going senile down there. It's like, dude, how are you 80?
You're
How old are
older than some of the
you?
people that they're showing.
Can I trust what you just said? Like, did you take your pills?
Yeah, yeah. I don't think I made a comment to my girlfriend. I was like, oh, there's like no, like there's one person of color, two people of color, really, and one, woman. I was like, where's the rest of like these other like talking heads that we could get a good representation of this?
Well, I think that is a good representation of Washington, sir. I think they
You
gave.
think so, really? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not very diverse. It's not.
I feel like he was trying to get that voice of Washington D.C., but also trying to show like this new movement of happening that's happening, especially during COVID. Like we've had like the most like protests and riots happening, and I feel like he did not get a good pull of what's happening as well. Like I mean, Black Lives Matter is a huge thing that's happening right now,
Well, Black
but
Lives Matter was featured in this thing.
yeah, it was. I mean, it went through like a white supremacist like rally or something like that as well, and they had the conversation. But I feel like like there's other things that are happening. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to backpedal on that. Like it is the biggest movement, and I think showing Black Lives Matter is a good like capturing the moment in this film.
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah, I would almost. I was gonna say like, man, I got something completely different because from my perspective, I was like, man, they showed me a side of what that
Mhm.
organization is that I honestly I didn't know who that guy was, and I didn't realize what they were doing in New York, and I thought he came across as a super intelligent guy with a lot of really smart stuff to say.
Yeah.
There was some really powerful stuff in here. I mean, let's not lose track of like with all the political stuff. I mean, there's just some experiences that like the rabbi who was,
Oh,
I
Yes.
mean, the
yeah.
Black Lives Matter
Moment.
protesters. Yeah, I mean, there was some amazing stories in here.
Hmm.
I felt that the Hawk, I believe his name was, right,
Yeah,
from the Black Lives Matter movement. I thought I actually liked listening to him most because
yeah,
he was like one of us. He was just a guy. The other guys, and not that Leon Panetta and James Baker aren't highly intelligent people with a hell of a lot of political experience, but they have that experience, and that's really good. They can speak to that stuff, but I'd rather hear from the normal guy.
Yeah.
And he was at that Mother of All rallies, which is just, I think, the most powerful a moment in that entire documentary,
yeah.
Yeah.
It
where
really
he goes
was.
up there and they're booing him initially, and then real quick he turns it around and he's talking it up. But I mean, they have the footage. He's not exaggerating. He says, "I'm an
Yeah.
American," and the crowd turned in a good way. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool. But I do agree with Danny. With on the Black Lives Matter part, they did a really good job of
Hmm.
showing that. However, there isn't much diversity beyond that. Well, let me
No,
clear, there isn't
that's
any diversity beyond that. Um, the cutscenes, lots of cutscenes in it. kind of YouTube-y to me. But what did you guys think of all the little cutscenes? I thought they were funny. They were kind of a throwback to documentaries back in the day. It's stuff that it's stuff that I do on our stuff now. So
it's actually happening right now.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse is sawing a big log right now.
Thanks, gave me an idea because sometimes it gets. What did you guys think of the style that they used for the documentary? I thought it was really cool, and it made what could have been a very dry documentary much better.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
I thought it felt like a YouTube video, and so, truly, like it kept me interested with all that goofy little stuff.
Yeah, same. Like it just added the little flavor, and I thought it was a PBS thing for such a long time too. I was like, oh, this just makes sense.
The letter people are gonna show up. I know it.
Yeah.
So this movie, they talk a lot about the strife in the country, COVID. They mention it a lot. So is this topical or is it exploitation? Because in this case, it could be a very, very thin line.
I think that's up to the viewer, man. I think you could. I think you could take this in a lot of ways. I think you could be insulted by it. I think you could totally agree with it. I think you could be everywhere in between, which what I think makes it very successful at what it was trying to do. I think in kind of being this like kind of wide swath and kind of bland in a way, that it kind of covered its own bases. I think it's entirely up to the viewer.
I'd agree with you. Like, even though they bring up it's modern, very modern with like, it seems like it was just made last month type of thing. Not in production values, like the topics they're talking about. They clearly have they're on one side of the fence. However, it's not a political thing. So you're right. Bland is a very good way to describe it. And topical exploitation, I lean towards more topical than exploitation. But you're right. Different people will look at it. And actually, I saw a comment about it that was very, very negative against it, saying that they were taking advantage of what was going on in the country.
See, I don't think I think it's more topical, and I don't think they're taking advantage of it. I'm sorry, my baby's just crying. I'm not sure if you could hear. She hated the movie. She hated the movie.
Maybe she thought it was exploitative also.
Exploitation. She fell asleep through half of it, but to say that it's like taking advantage, I don't think so. I don't think it's a huge linchpin in this whole thing. It's mentioned like 2 or 3 times, and it's like forgotten about it. The whole view in this is the politics of Washington, really. And saying it's bland, it's perfect. It's like, again, like it's, if we talked about old dudes in Washington, guess what? Washington is super bland. It's white bread. You know, it has no flavor whatsoever. And if you want to add some paprika to it, it's
cayenne, buddy. We need cayenne pepper.
Cayenne. I'm sorry. There you go.
Cayenne pepper on your vanilla.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I think I completely agree with you too that it's bland, and it will serve different notes to anybody, and that's why I said it was a great conversation piece, because you could get a lot of points from this movie.
Absolutely. So, final thoughts on Stars and Strife. Blake, it's actually out on Stars right now and available in video on demand, but normal world, is it an opening night, stream it, wait to rent it, or just completely ignore?
I think it is successful at illustrating the fact that people who are in Washington, quote unquote, largely take care of themselves, and not anybody else. And so I think that message is a good one. So I'm gonna say stream it. Yeah, if you can stream this movie, I'd watch it. Like I said, don't expect too much. If it pisses you off, well, that's on you.
What about you, Danny? Hard-earned money on this or pass it on?
I would definitely say stream this movie. I don't see you spending, unless you're really into like political or documentaries about Washington and how it's been the same. Spend your money on it, but I would really say stream this. Again, the conversation pieces that it has, they're really good, and you could have a good conversation with your loved ones about it during Thanksgiving.
I agree. I agree with you completely, Danny. Like, unless you're into political discourse, there's no way that you should spend money on this. Stream it though, absolutely, because it is very interesting. Big caveat is you'll either like to talk about it or you'll like to complain about it. Like it's it's going to be one of those things because nowadays with politics that's just the way it is. So it's just best to stream it so you can complain about it for free on Twitter because you don't pay for Twitter, so don't pay for this. But it is very good. That's not a knock against the movie. I would just say stream it. Oh, every week you can find us here talking politics, I guess, sometimes. And it doesn't matter if it's here,
God,
if
I
it's in
hope
the,
not.
if it's in the Philippines, we'll talk about it. We do a little animation. Next week, we'll dip into some animated horror. That's the first time we've ever done that. And also, next week will be the start of our every week we'll be doing horror for a month. So stay tuned for that. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you next week.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Adios, everybody.